This is Arma Reforger. We're here on Xbox Series X taking a look at this Xbox game preview title. So be sure to like the video, subscribing is great as well. So what are we getting here on the Series X? Well, we're getting a pretty terrible time. It's not great at all. It really, it's terrible. Okay, so it is a game preview title, so it is going to be improved upon over time, but this runs like garbage. So this is targeting a 4K resolution at 60 FPS, and it very rarely ever gets there, and it has constant crashes and disconnects and pauses and performance issues and hiccups and server disconnects and it's just like goes on and on, the problems that are present within this one. And like visually, from a certain standpoint, yeah, it's kind of nice looking. The light's really smooth. It's got day and night cycles, so you can fight during the day or fight at night as the time goes on. There are some vehicles such as jeeps you can take in. Some of the buildings look kind of nice. Some of the reflections look decent. If you played DayZ, yeah, you know what? This one actually might kind of be like a nice upgrade for what you've seen from the DayZ experience. You go into different buildings and there's actually stuff in them, like actual items, and it looks kind of nice. It's not too bad in that regard. But yeah, no, this is not fun. It is really boring. It is bland. It takes so long to do anything. And I do know that this is supposed to be a glorified tech demo. I was kind of actually hoping we'd have a spawn with a vehicle nearby. And yeah, I do get that this is supposed to be like a tech demo to provide us insight and to get console users used to Arma for Arma 4 that's coming down the road. But wow, I gotta say, this is not a good showcase. This makes me think, wow, this is the Arma I keep hearing about over the years, because, ooh, this is rough. And again, I know it's game preview, but there's a certain point where even game preview, I'm like, this is a little too rough for game preview. Like, I've seen Bohemia's efforts, I've seen DayZ get updated and supported over time. I've seen Vigor get updated and supported over time. But this is really, truly a rough showcase. Like, look into the backdrop, you'll see a lot of trees. They're very much 2D in nature. Close up, yeah, it's not too bad, but you'll see tons of shadow kind of like pop in, grass pop in. The AI, it's kind of awkward. The shooting is so janky in this game. Like, it is remarkably hard to actually shoot people at a close distance. This is not the greatest of situations to spawn into. I actually should have spawned kind of near, I guess, a different base or something like that. I'm just trying to actually show off the environment. And it takes forever to find people. So there's supposed to be up to 64 players. I can find one server that does 64 players, and the ping is so bad that it's like unplayable almost. It's so hard to connect and get your friends and stuff into this. We've had so many issues with different players trying to connect and play with each other. It's frustrating, and you're constantly, and I'm hoping this doesn't pop up while we're doing this review, constantly being like disconnected. And it just, like, it really sucks, and just crashing, and then lots of looking at the screen where a crappy looking wave goes up and down. Oh, it's just brutal. Absolutely brutal. So most lobbies are 32 players. You've got this conquest or conflict-esque mode, which I believe is supposed to be the main focus here. And in this mode, you are taking positions on this map. So we're here in Montenac, and you've got this, I believe it's 51 kilometer squared map, which is actually correct. And you are trying to move along and take different positions along the way. Our team actually has a really good push against the other team there. But that's the thing, we also come into the question of, are there actual players you're playing against? Because most of what you come across seems to just be bots. Just bots. There's another mode where you're trying to capture and hold positions. That one, even though there are more people, is still relatively terrible. I run into enemy. Like, you can also, it's really hard. Are those bots that are shooting at me, or are they shooting at someone else? Sorry, the combat is so kind of not... Yeah, I think these are maybe bad guys here that are bots shooting at me. But yeah, combat, super, super janky, super awkward. We're gonna actually go firefight this thing right here. So you can do single shot, or you can also switch, and there's like burst fire on this gun. If you have like the AK or a different weapon, you can do, you know, different types of shooting, if that makes sense. You can basically, you know, do full auto if you'd like to. And you can see I'm damaged, and you can like take off clothing, and you can switch clothing and stuff. Like there's, I guess you would say, different depth to it, but it's also very hard to actually do things and understand what you're doing with your inventory, if that makes sense. Like it's really quite an awkward experience just the whole way through. You know, gameplay wise, I found this to be incredibly awkward to play and just really boring. I was playing it with a pal, we were doing our stream, and I think the good majority of the experience, we were practically just talking about other stuff as we walked down the road to get to places. And yes, I know I'm bleeding quite a bit. We'll show off the progression of your character kind of dying. There are creeks and rivers and different terrain. There's hills. It is actually a pretty large place. The Everon is the location. I like the density within the trees in the forest. I like the look of the towns and stuff. But yeah, it's just like it really... It needs a lot of work is the biggest thing. You know, priority being, hey, I don't want to disconnect constantly, or hey, it's so annoying leaving the server, rejoining the server, game crashing, game sending you to main menu. And then on top of that, the frame rate is just really, and I hope you've been seeing that as we've been playing. You know, sometimes it's okay, but a lot of the time it feels like it is dipping considerably and is not smooth. You know, I mean the HDR and stuff, that's kind of nice. And again, you know, from a visual standpoint, it actually is quite an upgrade over DayZ. There we go. You can see I'm getting more and more injured. I'm, you know, bleeding out and stuff like that, which is kind of funny. And, you know, there's an interesting element of, like, damage to things and death and, you know, some of those really mechanical spots. But it's like, you don't really see real players. You don't really come across a whole lot of conflict. You're just walking and walking and walking some more, and I don't personally find that to be too exciting is my biggest thing. Like, it was honestly one of the most boring streams I've ever done was playing this game for about, I think it was 4 hours or something like that. It just really is buggy, and it's got issues, and I don't know what to say. Like, it's also hard to tell teammates and enemies apart almost, because it's like, sorry, it's so awkward too. Sometimes you just get like run over by your teammates, but it's like the name tags don't show off in the far distance. So sometimes you think you're shooting your enemies, and sometimes you think you're shooting your pals, and you actually shoot your pals. It's just like really, really awkward. And I thought this was going to be a really exciting military sim that was really going to be like, you know, take consoles to that next level. But there's so many other similar titles that I've seen recently that I think just do a much, much better job. And if this is really that prelude to, you know, seeing Arma 4 on console, I don't even know if I'm that interested in it, to be honest. And yes, this game is gonna get updated. They'll probably do a way better job of this in the future. But I can't help but look at it now as being like, this is the state you wanted to show this game off in? Especially, like, you know, and I don't normally like to mention this kind of thing, but like price tier wise, I really, you know, kind of question some elements of this one. Is that a teammate or is that an enemy? Yeah, it's a teammate. You know, it's just weird. It's a glimpse of what's to come, but there's no real, like, commanding. Like, you kind of go to different areas and then you capture these I guess you would say radio posts and stuff, and you know, that's kind of interesting, but it's really hard to tell where you're supposed to be going, what you're supposed to be doing. You're not even really sure on the map where you might be. You gotta kind of guess and eyeball it. And then when you get into conflict, you know, with enemy troops, I've had times where I've been a foot away from someone, and you know, you're firing, you're basically like awkwardly trying to hit them, and you basically shoot a few magazines back and forth, and neither of you kill each other. I've done that quite a few times, and it's just like really, really rough. Now, there are some cool things. There's the Game Master, where you can kind of guide players, and that's a neat sort of element of player control. There's the Workshop, which allows mods. There's already some mods that are available, and these kind of, it looks like they all synchronize through the servers and stuff like that, which is good. But I do feel that the player size needs to be at least quadrupled, probably, you know, if we could get like a couple hundred a team almost. I think that would make this much more playable. Maybe I'm thinking too ambitious wise, but you know, we need way more players. Like a 32 player match that's like, you know, 16v16. It's a freaking ghost town. You maybe get that 164 lobby, and it's so unbearably like laggy that it's not even playable. Basically sat in there for hours just walking around, not coming. Like, we literally aren't sure if we've actually come across and killed any real players doing that mode. When you are playing the different like 3-point thing, the capture and hold, you know, that sort of felt like you were playing real players, but it doesn't seem like this is really all too busy, this game. Like, this is the most conflict I think I've actually had in the whole experience that I've played this one. And it is neat because the day and night is kind of going through. The clouds are cool. Because the clouds can cover the sun and it gets temporarily dark, and then also seeing the time of day shift is a little bit of a fun experience. So we've got a pretty like neat glimpse into it. Like, this is, you know, I think it's the 80s or something. It's like late 80s Cold War era as a setup here, but wow, this game really just does not hit the mark for me. Like, you know, I find myself getting bored in some military sim type games, but I'm getting better at like understanding them, like Hell Let Loose. I'm getting more used to. I love Insurgency. I'm actually coming around to Hell Let Loose, but this one, it's so rough. Like, there is communication in game, which is kind of good, so you can, you know, if you get players that are doing things, I think that's really fantastic and allows you to, you know, kind of connect and communicate with others. But most of the time it just feels like I'm wandering around doing nothing. Like, literally, I played like 4 hours of it, and I think we had a few brief moments of conflict, and most of them were fighting just the AI. Other than that, it's kind of just randomly driving around, walking around, dealing with teammates running you over accidentally, teammates accidentally shooting each other, crashes, bugs. Like, I'm genuinely shocked that we have not had server issues while playing in this lobby, because that is typically like a constant thing that like I'm used to when I'm playing this one. I'm actually, I started doing a review. Like, I literally was starting to record one, and then, you know, it crashed, and I had to rejoin the lobby, this lobby, and now it actually seems to be working, which is good. It doesn't seem like our teammates are actually doing anything specifically here, and it's starting to get real low, so you can actually see a little bit of the night stuff. So I like the idea of the night combat. It gets nice and dark, but we don't really have, and there's this delay almost when you're trying to pull up a gun. I don't know if you've noticed that a few times, where it kind of like shows nothing, and then eventually the gun comes up. The gun should come up here soon. There we go. Which is annoying. But it's like, you know, the darkness is kind of neat, but you basically can't see anything, and you're just shooting like silhouettes in the darkness, hoping that eventually you're gonna, you know, even if you come across anyone, it's so hard to like see anything. And like I said, night combat, spooky, creepy, the shadows and stuff really well done, but nah, it's not very great. See, a lot of people leave at night too because it's just kind of a rough experience. You do get a little flashlight that you can toggle, which is kind of cool, and then you put it on your character, and you know, then you're kind of walking around with your thing. Double click the right stick to go into third person if you're wondering. But there's not really much to it. Like, you're not, you know, you're not really commanding squads. The NPCs are just kind of standing around. It's just like a really, it's frustrating almost, because I think the mechanics for a fun time are maybe present in this, but like, I don't know. Like, what is our team even doing here? We're just kind of standing around. I was like, are we waiting to do like a big attack or something? I really have no idea. Will we come across players? Who's to say? So I think there's potential for this. You know, I like the look of the buildings. I like the look of the world. They need to fix the crashing. A lot of the standout bugs. The performance problems need to be smoothed considerably. Crashes. Crashes drive me in the same, like, server disconnects. Oh, so frustrating. Like, I've literally been in a loop for like 6 minutes trying to rejoin a lobby, and it's just infuriating is the biggest thing. Like, you sit here and you're just kind of like, what are we doing right now? But this is a lot of the game is not actually doing anything. This is actually action packed right here. This moment of us kind of just chilling out, not doing anything. Like, this is pretty action packed for this game. And I hope I'm actually kind of showing it off and giving you an idea of a lot of this experience, because it's so much walking. So much walking. And, you know, who knows, maybe this is going to be a really good gateway to get players into the Arma franchise over time. Are we just, like, not doing anything here? Like, this is just, what is going on here? Check my map. You know, and I think, oh no, who knows, maybe Arma 4 is going to be really, really exciting and have a ton of content and get everyone really, really excited about it. But for now, I'm just kind of sitting here being like, huh, not the most exciting of experiences. I hope we get something, like, I just hope we get more content is the biggest thing. Like obviously the map is big, but it's almost too big, and we need more players, and we need more things to kind of like do, and more direction. I think is the biggest thing. You know, I'm not expecting this to be like dumbed down or anything for console. I think we've seen numerous experiences that have worked really, really well on console that are more hardcore simulation. And I just, like, I keep looking at this one and being like, this is not a good showcase, not a good launch state for this type of game. I think we definitely do deserve a lot better console-wise, and I think, again, Bohemia has done a much better job over the years with different titles like DayZ with Vigor. I think those ones, you know, they had a distance to go, but I don't remember them being... Like, I think the first DayZ's biggest issue, aside from, you know, the typical DayZ jank, was just, like, the content wasn't there and they added it over time. So I'm hoping that's the case. Or maybe even the mods are going to be cool. My biggest thing is I'm like, wow, maybe the mods will be a lot of fun. Maybe there's a lot of potential for us to be, you know, playing this long term with some crazy mods, because it's all connected and stuff with PC in that regard, which is neat. And like I said, we already have some mods, which is really neat. But, you know, for now, I'm just kind of like, oh, this is really slow and boring. What are we doing? What is the point of this? Wow, I'm just driving along, or wow, I'm just walking along. It's very scenic, you know, there's nice paths. There's lovely little vistas and stuff, as long as you don't look too far in the distance and see all the 2D trees. I think if you've played DayZ, you should be at home here. If you've played Hell Let Loose, this makes that look like Call of Duty in terms of speed and interactivity. And yeah, I don't think this is in a good state right now. I'm very fortunate that we actually had this running well, and we haven't had any disconnects while playing this for this video review. I'm very, very thankful that that has been the case, because like I said, oh, I've had to deal with, over the course of 4 hours of streaming this one, you know, initially, just so much frustration, moments where I'm just like, what are we doing? We went on long tangents about things that had nothing to do with anything, because we were just kind of being like, wow, there's a whole lot of nothing going on. But for some people, perhaps the ultimate tactical simulator. I don't know. We'll have to see the long term of this one. For me, I'm just being like, hey, performance bad, disconnects bad, crashing bad. not really having direction, kind of boring, not a great time yet.